Well, I was just thinking about different things in life. Mm-hmm. You know how you think about life? Last time we were in here, we talked about, near-death experiences and stuff.
Yeah, you had an illness, and thankfully you've recovered and
health
taken care of yourself.
And things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it just made me think back on my life, It made me think to when I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was thinking ever since I was a little kid, what's kept me going? Sometimes I come in and I do radio shows. I'm on the road. I'll travel from here. Sometimes I'll even go to Boston. And I know you got roots deep in Boston there, Dave.
My whole family.
Yeah. And so sometimes I'll go to New York and I'll play shows, but I always come back here, home to San Diego, off the road. But I was thinking about when I was a little kid and we moved from Canada. When I was in Pasadena, California, and I was going to a Catholic school, and I was crossing the street, and this fly landed on my head. But it wasn't really a fly, it was a wasp. And I slapped my hand down on that wasp, and it stung me. And I pulled an inch-long stinger out of my skull. And the nuns took me into the convent, and I was having an allergic reaction. And they gave me like a Benadryl, and I fell asleep on this cot in the convent. And when I woke up, my mom was standing over me. And it was in the 60s, and she looked like Audrey Hepburn, my mom. Damn, she was beautiful. And she leaned down and she kissed me on the forehead. I'll never forget this. And she handed me an orange-flavored sherbet ice cream push-up flavored treat thingy. And she said, Stephen, I just want you to know one thing. She said, I want you to remember this. She said, I want you to know that I love you. And then she said, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm with you till the end. I'm in it for the long haul. You'll always be my friend. So years and years and years later, I went away to college, to the University of San Diego, Toreros. And I studied political science and Spanish. So I knew I wouldn't have a job, but at least I would know why. And I traveled everywhere I could when I got out of college with that political science degree. I traveled all over Europe. I went to Spain. Man, I went down to Ireland. I went across England. I went to Morocco even. I ended up in Amsterdam. And I played all kinds of music. And then I came back home and I wanted to finish up my college. And I had this roommate named Todd Donahue. And Todd he was a Southern California surfer, and every word was dude out of his mouth, and he'd just say, hey dude, how you doing? Different ways of saying it, like if you blow off your fingers in Tijuana, Mexico, after playing with some fireworks and M80s, he'd say, dude! If you'd walk into him on the bathroom and he had some dirty magazines and you weren't supposed to come in, he'd say, dude. But if he had a secret he was gonna tell you, he'd go, dude, check this out. So there was a lot of different ways to say it. If he saw you at the airport, maybe you flew into Lindbergh Field and saw him accidentally, he'd go, dude! There's so many different ways you could say it. So anyways, he got out of the ocean one day. I think he was surfing over there, maybe at Tourmaline, and he came back home where we were living in Mission Beach, and he said, dude, I met this totally hot chick. She's so fine. And I think she's gonna come over tonight. And so I wanna put the BOP underneath your bed. And I said, oh no man, don't put the BOP underneath my bed. And the BOP was an acronym for bag of porn. Ooh. And I didn't want him to put the bag of porn underneath my bed because, well, they had 2 dirty magazines in it. This is before the internet existed. And I can't say the name of the 2 magazines because I'm on the DSC show and, they're not. I can say them?
Say it.
Well, okay. Slick Slots and Prison Pussy.
Nice.
Now, why do these magazines always have alliteration in their titles, right? So I said, please don't put the BOP underneath my bed. My lungs could collapse, which sounds like a weird statement to say. My lungs could collapse, but I'd already had 12 collapsed lungs. I said, if my lungs collapse, my parents are going to come down and they're going to have to see me and they might reach under the bed. You never know. They might come to my room and they would see that the magazines were there. Slick Slots and Prison Pussy. So please don't put the bag of porn underneath my bed. He said, dude, I've got to put the BOP underneath your bed because this girl's going to come over and when she reaches underneath the bed, she'll think I'm a pervert. And I said, but you are a pervert, Todd. You are a pervert. Those are not my magazines. The pages are stuck together because of you. So anyways, I went out that night and sure enough, my lung collapsed, believe it or not.
Oh no.
My 13th time, I was rushed to the hospital. They brought me in and the doctor said, dude. And I said, could you please speak more professionally? He said, dude, you've had 13 collapsed lungs. We're going to have to do what's called a thoracotomy, bro. And I said, no, I don't want to get that done. That's where they cut up the inside of your rib cage and make the lungs stick to it so it'll never collapse again. Well, I was worried, and they said, we're going to have to call your parents to come down. And my parents drove all the way down from Palm Springs, California, and they brought the priest from our parish, an Irish priest named Father Michael Murphy. So the priest comes into the room and he's blessing me with holy water, and the drugs are kicking into my body. I'm getting high on all the drugs before I go into surgery, and my roommate Todd comes in. My mom and dad walk in, and my mom says, Steven, we drove a long way to visit you and we don't want to go home. We're really worried. You're going to be in the hospital for at least 2 weeks. So we're going to stay in your room because we don't want to get a hotel.
Oh, no.
And all I'm thinking is, get the BOP out from underneath my bed. But I can't talk because the drugs have kicked in now. So I look at my mom and I just say, and she can't understand what I'm saying. I say, wheel me away to go into surgery. You know, you hear the stories about mothers who can lift a Volkswagen up off their kids after the Volkswagen collapses on their kids. That was the strength I got up. And I sat up in the stretcher. And as they rolled me off into surgery, I looked at my mom and I said, BOP, mama. Well, my mom looked at me the way that a dog would look at you if you put a sweater on and took its picture at Christmas, and tilted her head. And I woke up in intensive care after all the surgery was over, and there was tubes coming out of my lungs, tubes coming out of my nose, even tubes coming out of my wiener. Can you believe it, Emily? Emily's the producer of the morning show, and she just spit up her tea on me. So there were tubes were coming out of my body, and the priest was sprinkling me with holy water, and I looked at the priest, Father Michael, and I said, BOP, Father. And he looked at me and he said, do you have to pee? Do you have to pee, Stephen? Do you have to pee? Finally, I looked at my mom and I said, bag of corn? And she said, you can't have any corn, no corn. Finally, I looked at my priest and my mom and dad, and Todd was in the room, and I said, get the frickin' bag of porn out from underneath my damn bed. Slick slots, prison pussy. My head spun around 360 degrees like The Exorcist. The holy water sizzled off of my skull. Well, the priest covered up my dad's ears, and my mom covered up her own ears, and Todd ran out of the room, and his last words were, dude. Then my dad leaned down to me and he said, it's okay, son, we still love you. Besides, that Slick Slots was a pretty good magazine. But your mom really liked prison pussy. Go figure. And I said, no. And before he kissed me on the forehead, he said, Stevie, I want you to remember one thing. He said, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm with you till the end. I'm in it for the long haul. You'll always be my friend. Now as I sit here in this chair today on this beautiful, beautiful day here at Jack FM 100.7 on the DSC show, I can only think of one thing. I can only think of love. And I think about how important love is sometimes. I think about that book, Into the Wild by Jonathan Krakauer. What does the guy find out at the end of his life after traveling everywhere? All he really wanted was love. And I think about Emily spitting tea out of her nose, laughing, having fun in life, producing the DSC show. And I think, man, she found love. Gosh, she got married. I go away for a little while, and all of a sudden I come back, she's got married. Look at her beautiful freckled face. So she gets married. She meets some guy from Brazil, Rico Suave. I can't even believe it. They get married on a boat, and dolphins show up doing backflips. Everybody's happy. But I think about, how did she find love? She found it on a dirty dating site called Tinder. She swiped right. He swiped right. They thought they looked all right. They started hanging out. They were having a good time. They did what people do when they meet on Tinder. They got naked. Woohoo! Not just naked, because my mom says there's a difference between naked and naked. Naked's when you're naked, and naked's when you're naked and up to no good. So they ended up, not only did they have fun because they met on Tinder, but they realized they had something in common. They had love in common. They liked the same movies. They liked a lot of the same things. They discussed some of the same things. They liked holding each other's hands. This wasn't just some dirty hookup. This was love, and it took them both by surprise. A Brazilian meets a girl from Seattle? What are you talking about? And they fall in love? So they talked, man, we should move in together. They moved in together. She said, I want you to know, man, maybe one day we could get married. But we can never have kids, of course, because I can't get pregnant. And you know what he said? Because he was so cool. He said, we'll adopt a kid. He didn't mind. He didn't need to make his own kid. He knew his own sperm were strong swimmers, really strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu sperm swimmers. But he didn't need to have his own sperm happen. They could adopt a kid. There are lots of kids that need homes. So then Emily's coming into work one day. She got married and everything. People here were surprised, and she wasn't feeling that good. So she goes, you know, I better go over to the drugstore because I was told I could never have a baby. Never. And she takes one of those pregnancy tests. You know, Dave, you and I take them all the time. And she pees on it in the bathroom at the DSC show while nobody's looking. And then she said, what? This isn't supposed to happen. So she went and bought another one. She just shirked her duties at the DSC show and went and bought another one. They didn't even have a producer. They were left like orphans. Chainsaw was smelling the butt of another man in yoga. He didn't even want to be there. He didn't know what to do without Emily telling him what to do. Boyer had no drum set, and Dave was lost wandering. He needed to leave a trail of breadcrumbs. And then Emily said, I'm going to pee again on this little stick. And it said, what? Positive? I'm pregnant? Oh my God, she called up Eric, aka Rico Suave, and his jaw dropped to the ground. She said, guess what, honey? We're preggers. And I would like to announce on the DSC show today that she is 5.5 months pregnant, and they have a little boy that will be coming into this world. He'll be the newest member of the DSC show, and you heard it right here. Today, this morning, a child was born because he had strong Mark Spitz swimming sperms that fertilized her eggs. Jiu-jitsu sperms dove off of the starting blocks when the starter's gun went off. Boom! Fertilized that egg, and there's a baby on the way. And I would just like to say, as he looks at her with tears coming out of his eyes right now, I would like to say, everybody sing along, because this is their theme song. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm with you till the end. I'm in it for the long haul. You'll always be my friend. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm with you till the end. I'm in it for the long haul. You'll always be my friend. Eric and Emily, a baby on the way.
Woo! So what are you saying?
That was awesome.
Well done, Steve. Thank you.
Wow.
Steve Poltz is with us. Emily's baby is with us. Yeah, that's the truth.